Let's begin by simply noticing the weight of your body, feeling supported, feeling safe. And as you sink a little deeper, a story is here waiting for you. It's a story that begins not with kings or golden pharaohs, but in the warm, dry dust of a place long ago. There's no need to try and picture it perfectly. Your mind will create all the images it needs. Just allow my voice to be a gentle guide as we drift together down a river, not of water, but of time itself, to follow the quiet journey of a single, ordinary soul through the ancient land of Egypt. Before we drift too far, if you feel a connection to this place, you're welcome to leave a quiet like or subscribe. Think of it not as a task, but as leaving a soft footprint in the sand before you continue your journey inward. But please know, your peaceful presence here is thanks enough. It's a quiet comfort too, to know where in the world this story is landing as you drift off. If you feel inclined, you can leave a comment with your city or your country, and the time for you right now. A small, silent network of listeners, all settling into rest at the same time. And now, let the shadows in your room grow long and soft. Perhaps you can feel the cool side of your pillow, or the gentle weight of a blanket. Let's allow the world outside to fade completely, replaced by the faint flicker of an oil lamp, as we journey together to a small, noisy room in the great city of Thebes. The air is thick with the smell of spilled beer, cheap incense, and the sweat of a long day. You can taste the dust on the back of your tongue. You are leaning against a mud brick wall, its surface cool and a little crumbly against your bare shoulders. The tavern is full tonight. Sailors from their barges on the Nile, quarrymen with stone dust still in their eyebrows, a couple of off-duty soldiers gambling with carved bits of bone. Their laughter is a dull, familiar roar in your ears, like the river in flood season. A lute is being played in the corner, a simple, repetitive tune that you've heard 1,000 times. It's the soundtrack to your life. You take a slow sip from your clay cup. The beer is thick, almost like porridge, and barely cool. It's sustenance more than a luxury, the bread of the common people in liquid form. You've had so much of it hardly taste it anymore. It's just there. Like the heat, like the noise. You feel a profound weariness deep in your bones. It's not the tiredness that comes after a long day's work, the kind that a night of sleep can fix. This is a weariness of the soul, a slow, heavy settling, as if your own spirit is finally growing tired of holding your body up. You close your eyes for a moment. The faces of the men blur into a single, shifting shape of light and shadow. Their voices merge into one low hum. On your head, a cone of perfumed animal fat, a small luxury you allowed yourself for the evening, has been slowly melting. You can feel a single, greasy trickle of scented lotion run down the side of your neck. It was meant to be alluring to make you smell of lotus and myrrh amidst the tavern stench. Now, it just feels sticky. It's a strange little detail, and one historians still puzzle over when they see it in tomb paintings. These odd cone-headed party guests. Was it fashion? A personal air freshener? A religious symbol? For you, it was just something you did. Something to feel a little more than just a girl in a tavern. Your gaze drifts to a man watching you from across the room. He is new, not one of the regulars. He raises his cup to you, a silent question. A few years ago, you would have smiled back instantly, your mind already calculating, turning the simple gesture into a negotiation. Tonight, you find you don't have the energy. You give him a slow, tired blink and look away. This life, it was never a choice, not really. It was a current you fell into, like a tributary of the Great Nile. And you learn it to swim. You learn it the words, the smiles, the gestures. You learn it to read the hope and the loneliness in men's eyes. You were a part of this city's machinery, as vital and as overlooked as the women who ground the grain or fired the pottery. Historians, centuries from now, will still argue about what to even call you. A prostitute, a single woman trying to survive. The language they have doesn't quite fit the subtle, complicated reality of your world. You are just you, and you are tired. You feel a quiet tremor begin in your chest. Not a cough, but something deeper. A loosening. The loud sounds of the tavern begin to fade, as if someone is slowly packing them away in cotton. The flickering lamplight seems to grow brighter, then dimmer, pulsing with a rhythm only you can perceive. The face of the lute player, his brow furrowed in concentration, seems very far away. You take one last, shallow breath. It doesn't hurt. There is no struggle. It is simply the last one. A final, gentle letting go. An exhale that carries with it the dust of Thebes, the taste of cheap beer, and the scent of melting lotus. The clay cup slips from your fingers, but you do not hear it shatter on the stone floor. You are already drifting. You are no longer leaning against the cool mud brick wall. In fact, you are no longer leaning against anything at all. There is a sudden, astonishing lightness, a feeling of being untethered, like a papyrus boat that has slipped its mooring rope and is now drifting freely into the center of the great river. The loud, familiar roar of the tavern is gone. It has been replaced by a silence so profound, so absolute, that you can almost feel it as a soft pressure against you. You are floating, just a few feet above the floor, near the low, smoke-stained ceiling. You look down and there, in the flickering lamplight, you see a body slumped on the bench where you were just sitting. Your body. The simple linen dress, now slightly askew. The dark hair, damp with the melted perfume cone. The small, calloused feet, dusty from the city streets. One of your sandals has come loose. It looks small, frail, unfamiliar. You feel a strange detachment, a cruel curiosity, as if you were looking at a stranger who just happens to look a little like you. The man who had raised his cup to you is now walking over. He frowns, seeing the shattered pieces of your cup on the floor. He nudges your shoulder with his foot, first gently, then a little harder. There is no response. He calls out to the tavern keeper, a stout man with a scarred face. Their mouths are moving, but the sounds don't reach you. It's like watching a scene through a thick pane of glass. Their actions seem slow, almost comical, their urgency oddly misplaced. This is your BA. This is what the priests always talked about in their long, groaning chants. Your spirit, your personality, the essence of who you are. It has taken the shape of a small bird with a human head, your head. You can feel new, phantom limbs, wings of soft grey feathers, and you flex them instinctively. The movement is effortless. You are a creature of air now, no longer bound to the heavy earth. This form, the human-headed bird, is how your people have always imagined this moment, a way to give shape to the formers, a way to picture the soul's first flight. Academics in the far future will debate whether this was a literal belief or a powerful metaphor. For you, in this moment, it feels utterly real. You are a bird, you are yourself. You drift higher, passing through the thatched roof as if it were nothing more than a morning mist. Above the tavern, the night sky of Thebes is of vast, deep indigo cloth, scattered with the diamond dust of a million stars. The air is cool and clean, and you take a deep, cleansing breath, even though you no longer have lungs. The familiar smells of the city, baking bread, animal dung, the damp scent of the Nile are muted, distant memories. From this new vantage point, you can see the whole city laid out below. The great temple of Karnak is a forest of stone in the distance, its massive pylons like sleeping giants. The homes of the wealthy are bright squares of torchlight, while the tangled alleys of the poor, your alleys, are a web of deep shadows. And there, snaking through it all, is the river, the mighty Nile, the giver of life, a ribbon of polished silver under the moonlight. It flows with a silent, eternal patience, indifferent to the small dramas of light and shadow playing out on its banks. You feel a gentle, insistent pull. It's not a physical force, but a deep, internal urging, a magnetic north for the soul. It pulls you westward towards the land of the setting sun, towards the vast, silent necropolis on the other side of the river. The place the living call the West Bank, the land of the dead. It is time to go. But you hesitate. You look back down at the tavern, that tiny point of flickering orange light. Inside, two men are now carrying your body out into the back alley. a small crowd has gathered. A woman you knew, another tavern girl named Marit, is crying. Her grief is a strange, beautiful, painful thing to watch from up here. You feel a pang, not of sadness, but of a deep, noisy, aching tenderness for them all, of hunger and thirst, of love and loss. You are not. You find you have a strange artifact from your life, something you didn't even know you were holding. In the grasp of your new, bird-like talons is a tiny, almost weightless papier scroll. It's a cheap copy, hastily written, of what the wealthy have in their grand tombs. It is your Book of the Dead, a collection of spells, hymns, and passwords for the journey ahead. It cost you almost everything you had managed to save, purchased from a sly temple scribe who promised it was a very effective version. This little scroll is your only map, your only guide through the coming darkness. It's a flimsy thing to bet your eternity on, but it's all you have. The pull westward grows stronger. It is the call of destiny, the summons of the gods. You turn away from the city of the living, from the single, weeping light of Merit's sorrow. With the silent beat of your new wings, you rise higher into the cool night air and fly towards the waiting darkness, towards the river, towards the land where the sun dies each night and where your own long night is just beginning. The river is a silent, black mirror below you as you drift across. There is no boat, no ferryman, just your own quiet intention carrying you from the east bank, the land of the living, to the west, the land of the eternal. The pull is stronger now, a steady, gentle tide drawing you towards the cliffs that glow faintly in the starlight, their faces honeycombed with the dark mouths of 1,000 tombs. You don't go to the tombs, not yet. The current of your journey guides you to a low, windowless building set apart from the others. It is the Warbet, the House of Vitality, a place of purification. From the outside it is unremarkable, just another mud brick structure. But you drift through its walls as easily as smoke and find yourself in a large cool room, lit by several tall oil lamps. The air here is sharp, clean, and strangely medicinal, and of something else, the deep, quiet smell of eternity. On a long stone table in the center of the room lies the body you left behind in the tavern. It has been washed. Stripped of its simple dress, its dusty feet now clean. Priests, their heads shaven, their bodies wrapped in clean white linen, move around the table with a silent, practiced grace. They are not doctors or butchers. They are holy men, performing a ritual as ancient as the pyramids. You feel no fear, no violation. Only a profound sense of stillness, of watching a sacred rite unfold. One priest, the chief emblem, wears the mask of a jackal. He is the earthly representative of Anubis, the god who guides the dead. Through the dark, almond-shaped eyes of the mask, he examines the body with a serene focus. He begins to chant, a low, rhythmic hum that feels less like a sound and more like a vibration in the air. Scholars millennia from now will translate these texts, but they will never truly capture the sound of this moment, the sacred resonance intended to protect the flesh as the spirit begins its long walk. You watch as another priest takes a long bronze hook. It is slender, almost delicate. With incredible skill, born of generations of practice, he inserts it into the nostril of the body. You feel a distant, phantom echo of the sensation, but no pain. He works carefully, gently breaking through the thin bone at the back of the nose and into the skull. Then, slowly, painstakingly, he begins to draw out the brain piece by piece. It is a strange sight. Your people believe the heart is the seat of intelligence, of memory, of emotion. The brain is just stuffing. It is discarded without ceremony, a useless part of the machinery. This is one of the oddest little details of your civilization's beliefs, that the organ of thought was considered completely unimportant for the afterlife. Next, a priest who is a master of anatomy makes a small, neat incision on the left side of the abdomen. His blade is a shard of obsidian, sharper than any metal. Through this single opening, he reaches in and carefully removes the stomach, the intestines, the liver, and the lungs. Each organ is washed in palm wine, blessed, and then wrapped in linen. They are placed into for special vessels, the canopic jars, each with a lid carved in the shape of a god's head, the four sons of Horus who will guard them for eternity. But one organ is left untouched. The priest reaches in and feels for the heart. He touches it gently, as if to make sure it is still there, and then withdraws his hand. The heart must remain. It is the most important part of you. It is your conscience, your memory, your witness. It will be weighed. It will be judged. It will be judged. And so it is left in its rightful place, a silent passenger waiting for its final great trial. Now the real preservation begins. The priests bring in large quantities of natron, a natural salt harvested from the dry lake beds of the desert. They pack the body cavity with it, and then they cover the entire body in a great mound of the white, crystalline powder. It looks like a blanket of pure cleansing salt. The natron will be the body's companion for 40 days, slowly and patiently drawing out every drop of moisture, every ounce of the water that leads to decay. It is a process of subtraction, of taking away everything that is temporary, leaving only what can endure. As the priests finish their work for the night, covering the table with a clean linen sheet, you feel that part of your journey is now underway. The vessel is being prepared. It is being made eternal, a safe anchor for you should you ever wish to return from the field of reeds. You feel a strange sense of gratitude. Your life was small, your death unnoticed by the great and powerful. But here, in the House of Vitality, you are being given the same care, the same rights as any other child of Egypt. It seems do not distinguish between the rich and the poor in these sacred matters. The pull westward returns a little stronger now, a little more insistent. The work here is done for now. Your body has been set on its own slow path to permanence. It is time for your spirit, your BA, to continue on its own. You drift away from the quiet, salt-scented air of the House of Vitality, drawn once more into the cool, silent night. The stars seem brighter now, closer. The moon, a sliver of polished bone, hangs above the western cliffs. The pull guides you towards that vast, sleeping city of the dead. It is a place of profound silence, a silence made not of emptiness, but of a million sleeping souls. Your journey does not take you to the grand tombs of the pharaohs, with their painted corridors and hidden chambers filled with gold. It does not lead you to the painted chapels of the nobles, decorated with scenes of feasting and hunting that they hope to continue for eternity. Instead, the pull guides you down a narrow, winding path between the rocks, to a place where the common people are buried. A small patch of earth, humble and crowded. Here you find it, your own tomb, your eternal house, as your people call it. It is not much. A simple pit, dug a few feet deep into the sandy ground, with a small, rough-hewn chamber at the bottom. No grand entrance, no decorated facade. Just a small pile of stones on the surface to mark the spot. You spent years saving the few copper debon needed to pay the tomb cutters for this simple service. It is all you could afford, but it is yours. Inside this small dark space, your mummified body will eventually be placed, after its 40 days in the natron bath and its careful wrapping in linen bandages. With it will be the few possessions you managed to gather for this journey. There is no golden furniture, no alabaster jars, no miniature army of servant statues. Just the essentials. You see them placed there in your mind's eye. A phantom echo of the funeral that is yet to come. A small clay dish with a piece of dried bread and a fig. A tiny jug that once held beer. Simple sustenance for the long road. These are not just objects. They are promises, magical guarantees that you will not hunger or thirst in the underworld. The belief is so simple and so powerful. What you have in your tomb, you will have in the duat. Beside the food offerings is a single small wooden figurine. A Shah BTI. It is crudely carved, its features barely hinted at, its painted hieroglyphs a little servant. On its tiny body is a spell, an instruction for it to answer in your place, if you are called upon to do any hard labor in the afterlife, in the field of reeds. The wealthy have hundreds of them, one for every day of the year. You remember the day you bought it in the market, choosing it carefully, feeling it smooth, lightwood in your palm. You hoped, with all your heart, that it would be a loyal servant. It's a charmingly practical aspect of your people's vision of heaven, the idea that even paradise might involve a bit of unwelcome farming. and it's best to bring along a magical substitute to handle the work. And of course, tucked beside where your head will rest is a copy of your papyrus scroll, your Book of the Dead. It is the most important object of all. The spells written on it are your real treasure. They are the words of power, the keys to unlock the gates of the underworld, the passwords to placate the guardian demons. You watch as, in the vision of your funeral, a priest performs the final, crucial ritual, the opening of the mouth ceremony, and ears of your wrapped mummy, magically reawakening the senses so you can speak, see, and hear in the afterlife, so you can use the spells on your scroll. This simple, humble tomb, it is a world away from the golden sarcophagus of the boy king Tutankhamun will mesmerize the world thousands of years from now. But historians sometimes forget that for every Tutankhamun, there were a million souls like you. Your story, your simple preparations are the real history of Egypt. The history of hope on a budget, the quiet, desperate faith of ordinary people who looked at the great, unknowable darkness of death and tried to pack a small bag for the journey. There is a debate that will echo through the halls of academia for centuries. Did the common Egyptian truly believe all of this, literally uncompletely? Or was it a collection of traditions, a comforting set of rituals whose original meanings were sometimes lost to time? As you look at your small, eternal house, you know the answer is somewhere in between. You didn't understand every word of every spell. You didn't know the names of all the minor gods. You believed in the judgment. And you believed, you hoped, that what you had done was enough. The vision of your burial fades. The small chamber is empty again, waiting. The work of the living is done. They have given you a house, some food, a servant, and a map. The rest is up to you. A new feeling begins to stir within you. The gentle westward pull is gone, replaced by a sense of descent. A feeling of sinking, not into the earth, but into a different kind of reality. The stars above begin to dim. The familiar, rocky landscape of Thebes dissolves like a dream. You are leaving the world of forms and entering the world of symbols. You are falling into the first page of your book. You are awakening in the duet. The feeling is not of falling but of arriving. One moment, you are a bird spirit drifting over the moonlit hills of Thebes. The next, you are standing on your own 2 feet, in a place of profound and utter darkness. The transition is seamless with no jolt of sound. The air, if it can be called air, is still uncool and carries no scent. There is no ground beneath your feet, yet you feel perfectly stable. There is no light, yet after a moment your eyes, your spirit's eyes, begin to adjust. This is the duet. The underworld. It is not a place of fire and punishment, not the hell that other cultures will later imagine. It is a realm of deep, primordial twilight, a world that exists in a perpetual state of being just before the dawn. The darkness here is not an absence of light, but a presence in itself. It is the ancient, sleepy darkness of the cosmos before creation. You look down at yourself. You are no longer a bird with a human head. You are whole again in a form that is both familiar and new. You look like yourself wearing a simple, clean white linen sheath, the traditional garment of the dead, but you feel weightless, ethereal. Your body is not made of flesh and bone, but of a substance that feels like solidified moonlight. You can feel your heart, your ib, beating a slow, steady rhythm in your chest, a warm, living presence in this cool, silent place. In your hand, you still clutch your precious papyrus scroll. It seems to glow with a faint, internal luminescence. Its dark, inky hieroglyphs standing out like tiny, sleeping birds. Slowly, the landscape begins to reveal itself, not through light, but through a kind of inner knowing. You perceive shapes and structures in the gloom. Strange, stylized trees with turquoise leaves, rivers that flow with black, silent water. And in the far, far distance, a faint, pulsing glow, a soft crimson light that seems to rise from beneath the horizon. This is the source of the underworld's illumination, the sun god, Ra, making his nightly journey through the 12 hours of darkness, bringing a temporary, moving dawn to the lands of the dead. This journey is the entire structure of the duet. The underworld is not a static place, but a process, a voyage that mirrors the sun's path through the sky, but inverted. Just as the sun travels through the 12 hours of the day, it must travel through the 12 hours of the night. bringing light and life to the blessed dead and overcoming the forces of chaos that dwell in the deep darkness. Your journey, you realize, is to follow him, to travel alongside him in his great boat, and to pass through the same gates and trials that he must face. You are not alone. As your perception expands, you become aware of other figures standing silently in the twilight. Other souls, all dressed in the same simple white linen. They are silent, their faces calm and expectant. There is no chatter, no fear, just a shared sense of profound anticipation. They are all waiting for the same thing, for the arrival of the boat. You might think a place like this would be terrifying, and for many, it would be. But for your people, it is simply the next stage of existence. It is a reality they have prepared for their entire lives. The tomb paintings, the pyramid texts, the coffin spells, they are all maps and guidebooks for this very place. This is a landscape of the mind made real, a shared dream that every Egyptian enters upon death. This is a point of fascination for scholars, whether the duet was seen as a real, physical place or a perilous, psychological journey of the soul. For you, standing in its cool, quiet darkness, the distinction feels meaningless. It is simply where you are. Suddenly, a sound, or rather, the memory of a sound. A low, resonant chanting that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It is the sound of celestial navigation, the hymns of the gods. The crimson glow on the horizon intensifies. And then you see it. Sliding silently into view on a river of pure darkness comes a magnificent boat. A solar boat. It is impossibly long, with a high, curving prow and stern shaped like coiled serpents. It glows with a golden light, a bubble of warmth and color in the vast twilight. In the center of the boat stands a tall, powerful figure with the head of a falcon, crowned with a large, glowing sun disk. It is Ra, the creator, the sun god himself, in his night form. He stands ramrod straight, his expression serene and focused, his gaze fixed on the darkness ahead. He is surrounded by a retinue of other gods, his divine crew. There is Sha, the god of perception, standing at the prow, calling out the way. There is Hikor, the god of magic, speaking the words of power that will overcome the obstacles ahead. The great boat glides to a silent stop before the assembled souls. A ramp of pure light extends from its side. There are no words spoken, but the invitation is clear. This is your protection through the dark hours to come. One by one, in a silent, orderly procession, the souls begin to walk up the ramp of light and take their places on the deck of the great boat. You join them, your weightless feet making no sound, are being sheltered in the presence of the divine. The journey is about to begin. The deck of the solar bark is vast, a plain of polished gold that seems to hum with a quiet energy. It feels warm beneath your spirit feet, a comforting contrast to the cool, neutral air of the duet. The light emanating from Ra's sun disk is not hot or blinding. It is a gentle, life-giving radiance that pushes back the oppressive darkness, creating a moving sanctuary of golden twilight around the vessel. You find a place near the edge of the boat, among the silent crowd of other souls, and watch as the landscape of the underworld begins to slide by. The great boat moves without oars or sail, propelled by the will of the gods themselves. It guides over a river that isn't water, but something more fundamental, a current of time and existence. The banks of this river are lined with strange, shadowy shapes, the sleeping forms of those souls who failed their judgment, or who died without the proper spells and were now trapped in a kind of eternal limbo. They are not tormented, merely, still, asleep until the light of Ra's boat passes over them, granting them a few brief moments of consciousness before they fade back into slumber when he is gone. It is a sobering sight, a quiet reminder of what is at stake on this journey. You are entering the first hour of the night. Each hour is a distinct region of the duet, with its own landscape, its own inhabitants, and its own challenges. The first hour is a place of transition, a gentle introduction to the trials ahead. The world outside the boat's golden light is sparse, a realm of deep shadows and stylized, geometric hills. You look at the gods who share the boat with you. They are not remote, terrifying deities. They are a crew, each with a specific task. At the helm stands Horus, the son of Osiris, his keen falcon eyes steering the vessel through the unseen currents of the underworld. You see Thoth, the ibis-headed god of wisdom, standing near Ra, the silent scribe and advisor. And coiled around the central cabin, a protective circle of divine power, is the great serpent Mihen, whose job is to defend the sun god from the dangers that lurk in the depths of the river. One of the most curious and debated figures on this boat is a pig. Yes, a pig, sitting calmly beneath the feet of Ra. This detail from the ancient texts has puzzled Egyptologists for ages. Pigs were often associated with the god Set, a force of chaos, and were considered ritually unclean. So what is one doing here, in this most sacred of vessels? Some scholars suggest it represents a conquered form of chaos, now subdued in serving the divine order. Others think it may be a very ancient god whose original role has been forgotten. For you, the pig is just another one of the quiet, profound mysteries of this place. It seems to belong here as much as anyone else. As the boat glides on, you hear a sound. A low, mournful wailing that echoes from the shadowy banks. You see figures there reaching out towards the light of the boat. These are the ba souls of those who were not buried properly, whose bodies were lost in the river or the desert. They are trapped between worlds, unable to fully enter the duet. They cry out to Ra for passage, but the boat cannot stop. It is a sad, haunting sound, a lament for the importance of earthly rituals. Your simple pit gym, your humble preparations, suddenly feel like an unimaginable luxury. You cut your papyr's scroll a little tighter. This is what it's for. The spells are not just for you, but for the journey of the sun god himself. The ancient Egyptians believed that the dead played an active role in the cosmic order. By reciting the correct hymns from their scrolls, the souls on the boat could help power the vessel, lending their spiritual energy to Ra, helping to overcome the forces of darkness. It is a beautiful concept that even in death, you have a purpose. You are not just a passenger, you are part of the divine crew. You find the right passage on your scroll, the hymn to Ra in his nightly journey. The hieroglyphs seem to glow a little brighter as you focus on them. You don't speak the words aloud, you think them. You project their meaning, their power, out into the golden air of the boat. Around you, the other souls are doing the same. A silent, collective chorus of pure intention rises from the deck, strengthening the light, quickening the boat's pace. Ahead, looming out of the darkness, you see a massive structure. It spans the entire width of the river. It is a gate, a huge, fortified gateway, its doors sealed tight. Two enormous, fire-breathing serpents guard its entrance. This is the end of the first hour and the entrance to the second. It is the first great trial. The boat begins to slow, its golden light illuminating the formidable obstacle. Your journey through the duet is not a passive one. You, and all the souls with you, must know the secret name of the gate, and of the guardians who watch over it, or you will not be allowed to pass. The real test is about to begin. The solar bark glides to a halt before the immense gate, the silence of the duet now seeming to press in around the boat's warm, golden light. The gate is carved from a single slab of what looks like polished obsidian, vast and featureless except for the strange, unsettling hieroglyphs that writhe across its surface like sweeping insects. It feels ancient, a barrier between one state of being and the next. This is the gate of the second hour, and its name, you know from your scroll, is Crusher of the Wicked. On either side of the gate, the two guardian serpents raise their heads, their scales the color of dried blood. Their eyes are chips of yellow fire, and a low hiss, like the sound of sand scouring stone, emanates from them. They are not merely guards, they are gatekeepers, divine sentinels whose purpose is to test the knowledge and worthiness of all who approach. This is a fundamental concept of the underworld journey. It is a series of initiations. You cannot pass through brute force. You must pass through knowledge. Power, in the duet, is knowing the right words. A colossal figure materializes in front of the gate itself. It is the gate's divine guardian, a towering, mummy-wrapped guard with a stark, unsettling face. His name is Sef Her, he of the stern face. He holds a long, wicked-looking knife in each hand, and his gaze is fixed upon the boat, unwavering and absolute. The test is threefold. You must know the name of the gate, the name of the gate, the name of the guardian, and the name of the serpent gods, who watch over it, to be left behind in the darkness at the first hour as the solar bark sails on without you. Around you on the deck, a silent tension grows. The other souls are all focused, their spirit gazes fixed on the gate, their minds searching their own memorized spells and papyrus scrolls. This is a personal test, undertaken in unison. Ra, in his divine majesty, does not intervene. He and his crew must pass this test just as you must. The journey through the underworld is a daily struggle even for the god. You unroll a small section of your scroll. The papyrus feels smooth and cool in your spirit hand. Your finger, a thing of faint light, traces the lines of hieroglyphs. You find the passage for the second gate. The script is cramped, the work of a scribe who was clearly trying to save space on the cheap material, but the words of power, not meant to be simply read, but to be known. The first word you must project is the name of the gate itself. You focus your mind, gathering your intention, and you speak its name, not with your voice, but with your will. AQEBI. As you do, a faint tremor runs through the massive gate. The coiled hieroglyphs on its surface seem to stir. Next, the name of the guardian. You look at the stern-faced god, SCF her, and project his secret identity, the name by which he must answer. A ripple of light passes over his mummy-wrapped form. His grip on the long knife seems to relax. Just a fraction. Finally, the names of the serpent gods. This is the trickiest part, a detail that lesser quality scrolls sometimes omitted. You scan the text, your heart, your ib, beating a little faster. And then you find it. You project their names, one after the other, a silent invocation of power. As the final name leaves your consciousness, the magic takes hold. The hissing of the great serpent softens into a low hum. They slowly, majestically, lower their crowned heads in acknowledgement. The stern-faced guardian, SEF her, steps aside, melting back into the darkness. And the great obsidian doors of the gate begin to swing inward, opening without a sound, revealing the path into the second hour of the night. A collective, silent sigh of relief seems to pass through the souls on the boat. You have passed the first true test. This process will repeat itself 11 more times, each gate more challenging than the last, each guardians more bizarre, their secret names more obscure. This has led some modern interpreters to see the Book of the Dead not as a religious text, but as a kind of cosmic cheat sheet, a magical set of answers to an eternal exam. But that view misses the point. Learning these names, reciting these spells, was an act of devotion, a way of aligning your own spirit with the divine order of the universe. It wasn't cheating, it was proving you understood the rules. The solar bark begins to move again, gliding through the now open gateway. As you pass through, you can feel a subtle shift in the atmosphere of the duat. The darkness in this new region feels deeper, older. The landscape on the banks of the river has changed. The stylized hills have been replaced by a vast, watery expanse, a great silent lake. You are now in the domain of the water gods. The second hour is known as Werness. The beings who inhabit this realm are different, stranger. Floating on the still, dark waters are other boats, filled with silent, grain-headed figures, agricultural deities, whose sleep ensures the fertility of the Nile in the world above. It is a quiet, contemplative region, a place of deep, watery silence after the tension of the gate. You feel a sense of accomplishment, a small, warm spark of hope in your chest. You have faced the first barrier and overcome it. Your cheap, hastily written scroll worked. The scribe did not cheat you. You look down at the delicate papyrus, at the dense, magical script. It is more than just a map. It is your weapon. It is your weapon. It is your shield. As the solar bark glides deeper into the watery realm of the second hour, you begin to truly appreciate the power of the small scroll in your hand. It is your connection to the world of the living, a tangible piece of their knowledge and their hope, manifested here in the land of shadows. The ink on the papyrus is a special kind, mixed with sacred compounds to make it endure not just in the dry air of a tomb, but in the ethereal atmosphere of the duat itself. It is hieratic, a faster, more cursive form of the grand hieroglyphs you see carved on temple walls. Hieroglyphs were for monumental, eternal statements. Hieratic was for the day-to-day business of life, and it seems for the urgent business of death. Your scroll is not a work of art. The lines are a little shaky in places. The symbols for certain gods are simplified, almost sketched. It's the kind of document a busy, mid-level scribe would produce for a client who couldn't afford the master's touch. Then yet the magic holds. The words of power are the same, whether they are carved in gold or hastily written on a scrap of papyrus. This is a core tenet of your people's magic. The power is in the word itself, in its shape and its sound, not in the beauty of its presentation. The universe is built on language, and to know the true name of something is to have a measure of power over it. You trace one of the spells with your finger. It's a long one, designed to protect against the serpents of the underworld. The text is dense, with no punctuation or spaces between the words, a continuous stream of divine language. It begins with an invocation, O serpent Reike, do not advance. The gods of the sky are in my protection. It is written in the first person, from your perspective. The scroll is not just a book about the journey, it is a script for the journey. You are meant to embody the words, to speak as a divine being yourself. I am the great magician. Another spell reads, the son of the great magician. By reciting the words you take on the power they describe. This is a theological concept that future scholars will find endlessly fascinating. They will call it performative utterance, the idea that saying something can make it so. For you it is simply how the universe works. Words have weight, they have power, and the words on this scroll are the most powerful of all. You notice something odd. Tucked into the margins of the main text are small, read-inked notes and illustrations. These are rubrics, instructions on how to use the spells correctly. 1. Next to a spell for breathing air in the underworld, has a tiny note that says, to be spoken over a golden amulet of a throat, to be placed on the neck of the deceased. You, of course, have no golden amulet. You have only the words themselves, and you pray that they are enough. It is a source of constant debate among historians how much did the physical rituals and amulets matter, versus the spoken spells. Was a pure soul with only a scroll at a disadvantage compared to a pharaoh buried with a treasury of magical objects? The answer seems to be a very Egyptian yes and no. The objects helped, but the words were the true key. As the boat continues its silent passage, you see other dangers begin to appear. The placid waters of the second hour are not as peaceful as they first seemed. Just beneath the dark, glassy surface, you can see the fleeting shapes of monstrous things. Crocodiles with the heads of beetles, serpents with 3 heads, fish-like creatures with human arms that reach up towards the boat. These are the denizens of the deep duat, forces of chaos that seek to halt the sun god's journey. But the boat is protected. Ikar, the god of magic, stands at the prow, his arms outstretched. He is not fighting them with weapons, but with words. He speaks the secret, ancient names of these creatures, and as he does they recoil, shrinking back into the depths. He is using the same principle as you did at the gate, but on a cosmic scale. You find the corresponding spell on your scroll, the spell for repelling the creatures of the river. You add your own silent recitation to the gods, your small power joining his immense one. It feels like adding a single drop of water to a great flood, but it is your contribution. You are not passive. You are a participant in this great, nightly battle between order and chaos. The journey feels less like a trial now and more like a collaboration. You and the gods, you and the other souls are all working together, a silent army of words against the encroaching darkness. Your humble scroll, with its smudged ink and cramped script, is your sacred or your holy sword. It is the repository of 1,000 generations of faith, the collected wisdom of a people who stared into the great abyss and decided to write down a set of directions. And as you face the looming darkness of the third hour, you hold it tight, a fragile, paper key to eternity. The solar bark passes through the gate of the third hour, a gate guarded by jackal-headed spirits and named Mistress of Food, a title whose meaning is lost to you, a fragment of a forgotten myth. The landscape changes once more. The watery plains give way to a winding, desert valley, flanked by steep, sandy dunes that absorb all light and sound. This region is called the Stream of the One. and it is a place of profound and unsettling quiet. The inhabitants of this hour are strangers still. They are not monstrous in the way the river creatures were, they are simply wrong. You see figures standing motionless lie on the banks, their bodies human, but their heads are inverted, their faces staring perpetually at their own feet. Others have no heads at all, their arms ending in blazing torches. These are the punished ones, souls who, for reasons unspecified, have been condemned to this strange, static existence. They are not in agony, they are simply nullified, trapped in a state of eternal absurdity. You also see creatures that are not souls at all, but bizarre, elemental beings native to this layer of the duat, for mummified figures carry a massive, undulating serpent on their shoulders. A procession of gods with the heads of cats, jackals, and baboons walk silently, holding strange symbolic staffs. They ignore the solar bark completely, engaged in some eternal, inscrutable ritual of their own. Watching them, you are struck by the sheer, imaginative weirdness of it all. This is not a simple heaven and hell. This is a fully realized alternate reality, a dreamscape populated by the deepest anxieties and the most cryptic hopes of your people. Generations of priests and scribes have added to this landscape, layering new gods, new demons, and new regions onto the ancient map of the underworld. It is a collective, evolving vision of what lies beyond. Historians will later struggle to create a coherent system out of Egyptian afterlife beliefs, and they will largely fail. Because it was never a single logical system. It was a sprawling, contradictory, and deeply poetic tapestry of myths, accumulated over thousands of years. A belief from the Old Kingdom might sit right next to a concept from the New Kingdom, without any attempt to reconcile them. The duet contains it all. It is a library of 1,000 different ideas about death, all existing at once existing. One of the strangest and most debated aspects of the underworld is the role of something called Disfet, or chaos. It is the opposite of Mayat, the cosmic order represented by the feather of truth. Chaos is not inherently evil, in the way a later religion might define it. It is simply the state of things before creation, unstructured, limitless, and wild. The greatest threat in the duet is not a devil but a serpent named Apophis, the ultimate embodiment of Isfet. He is the great enemy of Ra, and his goal is not to rule the underworld, but to swallow the sun and done make creation itself, returning everything to the primordial darkness. You have not yet encountered Apophis. His main assault comes in the 7th hour, the deepest point of the night. But you can feel his influence here. The strange, illogical nature of the creatures you see, the disorienting silence of the desert valley. It is all a subtle manifestation of chaos, a sign that you are moving further away from the ordered world of the living. You see a group of baboons sitting by the riverbank. They are chattering and howling, but the sound is inverted, a kind of audible silence. These baboons are associated with the dawn, and their job is to announce the sun's arrival in the morning. Here, in the deep night, they are guardians, their strange cries meant to ward off the creatures of chaos. They are a small, noisy outpost of order in a world that constantly threatens to dissolve into meaninglessness. The sight of these creatures, both the bizarre and the benevolent, does not fill you with terror. Instead, you feel a profound sense of awe. You are witnessing the inner workings of the cosmos, the hidden machinery of night and day, of life and death. Your own small, personal journey for salvation is part of this much grander cosmic drama. You are not just trying to save your own soul. You are, in your own small way, helping to save the sun. You look at the other souls on the boat. Their faces, illuminated by the golden light of Ra, are calm, focused. They too are witnesses. They are farmers, soldiers, weavers, and, like you, women of the tavern. And for this one, long night, they are the companions of the gods, the defenders of creation. It is a strange and beautiful thought, that the fate of the universe, each and every night, depends on the sun god, his divine crew, and a boatnery hopeful and slightly frightened ghost. The solar bark sails on, passing through the 4th and 5th hours of the night. These are the domains of the god Sokar, an ancient falcon-headed deity of the underworld, older even than Osiris. His realm is a vast sandy desert of impenetrable darkness, a place so deep and so old that even the light of Ra's boat seems to dim as it enters. The river of night transforms into a winding, dry path, and the great boat is dragged along by a procession of gods. It is a difficult, claustrophobic passage. The air grows thick and heavy. Strange, disembodied voices cry out from the darkness, calling out names, lamenting their fate. These are the residents of Soka's kingdom, souls trapped in a limbo that is neither punishment nor paradise. They are the truly lost. Your scroll provides spells of protection against their despair, words that reinforce your own sense of self, your own name, so you are not drawn into their chorus of oblivion. But then, as the boat emerges from the suffocating darkness of Soka's realm and passes through the gate of the sixth hour, the landscape changes dramatically. The oppressive gloom lifts, replaced by a soft, gentle silver light. The air becomes fresh and sweet, scented with lotus flowers and unripe barley. The river of night widens into a great peaceful lake, its surface as smooth as polished lapis lazuli. And there, on the far shore of the lake, you see it. A vision of impossible beauty. A perfect, idealized version of the land you left behind. It is the field of reeds, the Aau. It is the Nile Valley, but perfected. The sun is always shining, a warm, benevolent glow that nourishes without scorching. The barley grows impossibly tall, as high as a man's head, its grains heavy and golden. Date palms sway in a gentle, constant breeze, their branches laden with sweet fruit. The river itself flows with clear, cool water, not the muddy brown of the earthly Nile. You see figures moving in the fields. They are the aka Chess, the blessed dead, those who have already passed their judgment and been admitted to this place of eternal peace. They are dressed in fine, white linen, and they are doing the simple, pleasant work of an idealized life. They plough the rich, black earth with teams of celestial oxen. They reap the tall barley with golden sickles. They sit in the shade of sycamore trees, playing games of senet and drinking cool wine. There is no sickness here, no poverty, no grief, no back-breaking labor under a punishing sun. It is a life of gentle, purposeful activity, of eternal, sun-drenched afternoon. You see families reunited walking hand in hand along the riverbank. You see children laughing and playing in the shallows. It is everything your people ever hoped for, a vision of home, but without the sorrow. This vision of the afterlife is so agricultural, so deeply tied to the rhythms of the Nile, that some scholars have called it a farmer's paradise. And it is. It reflects the deepest desires of a civilization built on the fertile black mud of the river's flood. The greatest blessing they could imagine was an eternity of perfect harvests. But there is a peculiar detail. You notice that even here in paradise, there is work to be done. The fields must be ploughed, the grain must be harvested. This is where your small, wooden shabiti figure comes in. The spell carved on it is an activation command. Should you be called upon to perform many of these tasks, the shabiti is meant to magically spring to life and answer, "Here I am, in your place, taking on the work for you." It's good to have someone to handle the chores. This glimpse of the field of reeds is both a promise and a torment. It is the destination, the prize for which you are striving, but you cannot reach it yet. The lake is too wide to cross. You are merely a traveler passing by, allowed to see what awaits you if you are judged worthy. It is a moment of profound motivation, a reminder of what all these trials are for. You feel it deep, so-making longing as you gaze upon that peaceful shore. You see a woman who looks like your mother, who died when you were a child. She is sitting under a tree, weaving a basket, and she looks young and happy. Does she see you? You don't know. The vision is clear, but distant, like a memory of the future. The sorrow bark does not stop. It continues its journey along the edge of the lake, the beautiful vision of paradise slowly receding behind you. The path ahead leads back into darkness towards the seventh hour, the deepest and most dangerous part of the duat, where the great serpent Apophis lies in wait. You have seen the goal. Now you must face the final, greatest obstacles that stand between you and that shore. You turn your gaze away from the fading light of the field of reeds and look towards the gathering gloom ahead. The moment of peace is over. The heart of the battle is yet to come. Leaving the serene vision of the field of reeds behind is like waking from a beautiful dream. The gentle, silver light fades, and the solar bark plunges back into a realm of deep, oppressive twilight. You are entering the 7th hour, the absolute nadir of the sun's journey, the midnight of the underworld. It is here, in this pit of cosmic darkness, that the greatest battle of the night takes place. The river narrows into a treacherous, winding canyon. The air grows cold, and a foul, sulphurous steam rises from the black water. This is the lair of Apophis, the great serpent of chaos. He is not a god to be worshipped, but a force to be overcome. He is the eternal enemy of Ra, of light, and of all created things. Each night, he tries to swallow the solar bark and its divine passenger, to extinguish the sun and return the universe to the formless void from which it came. Suddenly, the river ahead begins to churn. The water boils, and a series of sad banks, magically summoned by Apophis, rise up from the depths, seeking to ground the solar bark and trap it. At the same time, a deafening roar echoes through the canyon, a sound that is not a sound, but a negation of it, a roar of pure chaos that threatens to unmake the very substance of the duet. The divine crew springs into action. This is the moment they have been preparing for all night. The goddess Isis, a powerful magician in her own right, begins to chant spells of protection, her words weaving a shield of light around the boat. Set, the god often associated with chaos himself, stands at the prow, wielding a great celestial orb to fight a great chase. Here, in the underworld, his violent and unpredictable nature is channeled to fight a greater chaos. The idea that even the most difficult and dangerous gods have a vital role to play in the cosmic order. From the depths, the head of Apophis emerges. It is a sight that chills your very soul. A serpent of unimaginable size, his scales the color of a starless night, his eyes burning with a cold, malevolent intelligence. He is so vast that his body is said to stretch for hundreds of miles through the Durat. He is not just a monster, he is a living piece of the primordial abyss. But as he lunges towards the boat, something strange happens. The souls of the dead, including you, are called upon to act. Your scroll contains the most powerful spells of execratium, curses against the great serpent. The spell for repelling the eater of the ass, the text calls him, one of his many insulting epithets. You focus your entire being on these words of power, projecting them like spears of light from the deck. Step back, retreat. Crawl away, Apophis, enemy of Ra, for I know your name. The battle is fought not just with harpoons, but with magic and with names. The gods and the dead work in concert, their combined power holding the great serpent at bay. But the fight is not just external. Apophis has another weapon, his hypnotic gaze. He can mesmerize his victims, paralyzing them with fear and despair. To counter this, you must navigate a different kind of obstacle. The boat approaches a shimmering, ethereal body of water that seems to be made of pure flame. It is the lake of fire. In many other cultures, a lake of fire would be a place of eternal torment. But for your people, it is a place of purification and protection. Its flames do not burn the righteous, they cleanse them of all impurities and, crucially, they destroy the evil magic of demons like Apophis. The solar bark sails directly into the lake. You feel a wave of intense heat wash over you. But it is not a painful heat. It is a heat that seems to burn away fear, to temper your spirit like hot metal plunged into water. Any lingering doubts, any whispers of chaos that may have taken root in your soul, are incinerated in this cool, cleansing fire. It is a baptism of flame, a necessary ordeal to prepare you for the final stages of your journey. The existence of this place has sparked considerable debate among modern scholars. Some see it as a precursor to the concept of hell, a place of punishment. But the ancient texts are clear. For the worthy, it is a place of renewal. For the wicked, however, their names are erased, and they are utterly destroyed, unmade by the purifying flames. It is a place of judgment, but its purpose is to preserve order, not to inflict suffering. Emerging from the lake of fire, your spirit feels stronger, brighter, more resilient. The solar bark itself seems to glow with a renewed intensity. The crew, now purified and strengthened, launches a final, decisive assault on Apophis. Gods armed with stone knives leap from the boat and begin to hack the great serpent into pieces, but he cannot be killed. He can only be defeated, driven back into the depths of the dew, to lick his wounds and gather his strength for the next night's attack. The roar of chaos fades. The churning river grows calm. The monstrous serpent is gone. The greatest danger has been passed. The boat sails on, leaving the darkness of the seventh hour behind. You have faced the embodiment of cosmic annihilation and have survived. You have played your small part in the victory of light over darkness. Now, the journey begins to ascend, moving from the deepest night towards the promise of a new dawn, and towards your own, personal, final trial. Having survived the cosmic battle in the deepest heart of the night, the solar bark now begins its slow ascent. The remaining hours of the duet, the 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th, are a journey back towards the light. The landscapes become less threatening, the mood less oppressive. Yew-poles used in mummification of the sacred oils used in mummification, and fields where divine weavers create the linen bandages for the dead. It is as if you are witnessing the backstage of creation, seeing all the sacred preparations that make life and rebirth possible. The creatures you encounter are no longer chaotic monsters, but benevolent, if still strange, guardians. You see processions of gods with the heads of stars, their bodies wrapped in celestial light. You pass by the tombs of the primeval gods, the ones who existed before Ra, sleeping in the deep earth and lending their ancient power to his journey. The sense of menace is replaced by a feeling of profound, ancient mystery. Finally, after a journey that has felt like an eternity in no time at all, the solar bark approaches the 12th and final gate of the duet. This gate is different. It is not a barrier of obsidian or stone, but a shimmering, translucent portal. On the other side, you can see not the darkness of another hour, but the pale, gentle light of the approaching dawn. This gate is guarded by the twin goddesses, Isis and Nephthys, in the form of two serpents. They are not here to test you, but to witness your rebirth. As the boat passes through the gate, a profound transformation occurs. The falcon Hedidraw, god of the night's sun, merges with the scarab beetle god Khepri, the god of the rising sun. The sun disk on his head begins to glow with a new, brilliant intensity. The long, difficult night is over. Ra is reborn. The boat sails out of the duet and into the sky of the living world. The assembled souls on the deck, your companions through the long night, begin to fade, their journeys taking them to their own individual destinies. Some will return to their tombs to rest, others will become stars in the night sky. Your own journey, however, is not yet over. The pull you felt before, the one that drew you westward from the world of the living, returns. But this time, it is not a descent into darkness, but a pull towards a specific destination within the duet itself. You find yourself standing once more on the solid, yet ethereal ground of the underworld. The solar bark has vanished, having completed its cosmic duty. You are alone, in a vast silent chamber. The ceiling is so high it is lost in shadow, supported by rows of massive columns carved to look like bundles of papyrus reeds. The air is still and heavy with the weight of judgment. This is the Hall of Mayat, the Hall of Two Truths. Before you, at the far end of the hall, sit 42 figures. They are the divine assessors, the judges of the dead. Each one is a formidable and often terrifying-looking deity. Some have the heads of crocodiles, others of hippos. One is simply a writhing, shadowy form with no distinct features. Each of these judges is responsible for a specific type of sin. There is a god who judges theft, a god who judges lies, a god who judges anger, a god who judges anger, a god who judges gossip. Collective gaze is overwhelming, a silent demand for a perfect accounting of your life. This is the moment that all your preparations, all your spells have been leading to. This is the final exam, but it is a strange kind of exam. You are not here to be interrogated. You are here to make a declaration. This is the beginning of the negative confession. In the center of the whole you see it. The great golden scales of judgment. They are massive, yet so perfectly balanced that they seem to float in the air. Beside them stands the calm, patient figure of Thoth, the ibis-headed god of wisdom, holding his scribe's palette, ready to record the verdict. And waiting in the shadows you sense a presence. A strange, composite creature with the head of a crocodile, the forequarters of a hippopotamus. This is MIT, the devourer of the dead. She is not evil. She is a force of nature, a kind of divine recycling unit. If your heart is found to be heavy with sin, it will be thrown to her, and your soul will be utterly and permanently destroyed, ceasing to exist. It is not eternal torment, but eternal oblivion. For your people. This was the most terrifying fate imaginable. You feel a gentle, reassuring touch on your arm. You turn to see the jackal-headed god, Anubis, the master of ceremonies, your guide. He has appeared silently at your side. He will lead you through this final trial. His presence is calming, a steady anchor in this overwhelming place. You clutch your papier scroll, your final shield. The spells for the negative confession are the longest and most complex in the entire book. You must address each of the 42 judges by name and declare your innocence of the specific sin they govern. I have not stolen. I have not told lies. I have not told lies. I have not been angry without cause. This ritual has been a source of endless debate for historians. Was the deceased expected to be literally innocent of all 42 sins? Was anyone? Or was it a ritualistic purification, where the act of denying the sin magically absolved you of it? Or perhaps it was a declaration of intent, a statement that you understood the moral law and had tried your best to live by it, even if you sometimes failed. The truth is likely a mix of all three. It was a legal, magical, and moral declaration, all at once. Anubis gives you a gentle nod. It is time to begin. You take a deep, steadying breath that you do not need, and you prepare to face your judges. Your entire life, with all its messy, complicated, and morally ambiguous moments, is about to be laid bare. You stand at the threshold of the great hall, a single, small soul before the silent, divine tribunal. The 42 assessors sit motionless on their thrones, a gallery of cosmic judgment. Their forms are a disquieting mix of the familiar and the nightmarish. There is a god with the serene face of a man, but whose body is made of shimmering heat. There is another who is simply a pair of legs, walking in place for all eternity. Their stillness is more intimidating than any movement would be. It is the stillness of mountains, of ancient laws that do not bend. Anubis stands beside you, a silent pillar of support. He does not speak, but you can feel his calming presence, an assurance that the process is sacred and just. He is the guardian of the mysteries. The rules are followed. Your fate is not in his hands, but the journey to that fate is. You look at the faces of the judges, and you feel the weight of their collective domains. This is not a vague judgment of good or bad. It is a highly specific audit. The list of sins they represent covers every aspect of human life. There is a judge for murder and a judge for eavesdropping. A judge for stealing a temple's bread and a judge for moving a neighbor's boundary marker. A judge for being hot-tempered and a judge for being lazy. It's a list that suggests your people had a very thorough and sometimes startlingly specific understanding of all the ways a person could be a disappointment. Scholars still wonder about these 42 figures. Were they all individual gods, with their own temples and worshippers in the world above? Or were they simply symbolic Persephoniscanes, created specifically for this one, ultimate courtroom drama? The truth is, for most of them, we have no record of them outside of the Book of the Dead. They seem to exist only for this moment, to play their part in this single, crucial scene. They are the divine specialists of sin. What is truly unsettling are their names, which you must speak aloud. They are not gentle names like the Forgiving One. They are names like the Eater of Entrails, the Swallower of Shadows, the Breaker of Bones, and He whose face is behind him. To address them, you must know these terrifying titles. It is a test of courage as much as of memory. You are not just speaking to a god, you are looking a specific sin in its monstrous face and denying it. You feel a flicker of panic in your soul. How can you do this? How can you stand before the Eater of Lies, who comes from the great temple at Heliopolis, and say, I have not told lies. Your life was a constant negotiation, a series of small, necessary falsehoods. The feigned smile, the whispered compliment to a man you found repulsive, the lie to the city guard about how you acquired that small silver bracelet, were those the kinds of lies that weighed down a heart? And what about she of the fiery breath, who judges adultery? You were not married, but your life was, by its very nature, a violation of the neat, orderly family structures that Mayat, the cosmic order, was meant to protect, and the white-toothed one, the judge of theft. You never robbed a tomb or broke into a house, but what about the extra measure of wine you sometimes took for yourself when the tavern keeper wasn't looking, or the loaf of bread you stole from a market stall when you were a starving child, long ago? This is the central, terrifying question of the judgment. Where is the line? The negative confession is a list of absolutes in a life that was lived entirely in the grey areas. It is a black and white test for a soul painted in 1,000 shades of compromise and survival. You look to Anubis, and in his calm, jackal eyes, you find not an accusation, but a quiet patience. The judgment, perhaps, is not about achieving a perfect score. Perhaps the gods are wiser than their rigid list of rules. Perhaps the true test is in the sincerity of your plea, in the overall lightness of your being, or perhaps not. No one who has failed has ever returned to tell the tale. It is time. You cannot delay any longer. The 42 judges are waiting. Thoth has his reed pen poised over his palate. Ammit, the devourer, shifts her weight in the shadows, a silent, patient presence. You take the first ceremonial step forward. You must begin with the great god, Osiris, who presides over the entire court, even though he remains unseen. You raise your spirit hands in a gesture of respect and begin to speak, your voice a clear, steady whisper that fills the vast, silent hall. You find the words on your scroll, the opening invocation, and then you turn your attention to the first of the 42 assessors. You look him in the eye, a terrifying figure whose body is made of writhing serpents, and you prepare to make your first denial. You take a deep, spiritual breath and turn to the first of the assessors. He is Fast Rider, who comes from the holy city of Heliopolis. His domain is falsehood. You meet his gaze, a burning point of light in a shadowy form, and you speak the ritual words, your voice echoing slightly in the immense hall. O Fast Rider, who comes from Heliopolis, I have not committed falsehood. One by one, you move down the line. You address Fire Embracer, who comes from the darkness of the void, and you declare, I have not robbed. You face Nosy One, a strange, disembodied head who judges insolence, and you state, I have not been insolent. The names are a litany of terror. The denial's a shield of fragile hope. With each declaration you feel a strange sense of unburdening. You are not just listing the things you haven't done, you are actively separating yourself from the very concept of the sin. You are defining yourself by what you are not. It is a process of purification through negation. The confession continues, covering the vast spectrum of human failing. I have not made anyone weep. I have not been deaf to the words of truth. I have not polluted the water. This last one is fascinatingly specific, a testament to how deeply the purity of the Nile was tied to the spiritual well-being of your entire civilization. To pollute the river was not just a crime against your neighbor, it was a crime against the gods, against life itself. As you speak, you can feel the silent, unwavering attention of Thoth. He is not judging you. He is simply recording. His role is that of the perfect, impartial court clerk. He is the god of knowledge knowledge is neutral. It is simply what is. The judgment will come from the scales, not from the scribe. You arrive at some of the more difficult, more intimate confessions. You stand before he who looks backwards, a bizarre deity whose head is turned the wrong way, and you must declare, I have not had relations with another man's wife. This is a cornerstone of your society's moral code, the protection of the family unit. And then you face he who is in the heart, a god who judges the sin of. Well, scholars are still not entirely sure what his name means, but the declaration you must make is, I have not had intercourse with a boy. The list is a complex tapestry of social, religious, and very personal ethics. Your voice remains steady, your posture firm. But inside, your soul is a maelstrom of memory. When you deny stealing, you see the face of the baker you stole from as a child, his angry shout, your own small, terrified flight through the dusty alley. When you deny lying, you see the faces of the men in the tavern, hearing your false laughter, your feigned words of affection. This is the true trial. It is not just about reciting the words. It is about facing the memories that those words stir up. It is an internal reckoning that happens concurrently with the external declaration. The gods, it seems, are not just listening to your voice, they are watching your heart. And then comes the most challenging part of the confession for you. There is no specific judge for your profession. It was not a crime in the way that theft was. It was simply a fact, a low status, often disreputable, but accepted part of city life. But many of the sins on the list brush up against the reality of your existence. I have not been quarrelsome. I have not been arrogant. I have not multiplied my speech overmuch. How many of these could you truly, honestly deny, after a life spent in the loud, chaotic, and often confrontational world of the band tavern? You begin to understand the deeper and magical nature of the confession. Perhaps it is not about claiming a life of impossible perfection. Perhaps it is about demonstrating your understanding of merit, of the ideal way to live. By speaking these denials, you are affirming your allegiance to the forces of order and harmony, even if your own life was often a messy contradiction of those ideals. You are saying, this is the law. I know it, I respect it, and I have done my best to live within it, even in my imperfect way. It is a plea disguised as a declaration of innocence. I hope that the judges, in their infinite wisdom, can distinguish between the sin and the sinner, between the choices made in weakness and the fundamental nature of the soul. You reach the final judge. Nihi bko, a great serpent god who judges the overambitious. O Nihi bko, you declare, your voice now filled with a quiet strength. I have not overstepped my station. With that final denial, a profound silence descends upon the whole once more. The negative confession is complete. You have addressed all 42 assessors. You have faced the catalogue of human sin and have, through the power of ritual speech, declared yourself separate from it. You have presented your case. Now all that remains is the evidence. All that remains is the weighing of your heart. The 42 judges remain silent, their verdict not spoken in words, but held in a collective, suspenseful stillness. You have made your case, and now the moment of physical proof has arrived. But as Anubis prepares to lead you towards the great scales, you realize there is one last, crucial piece of magic you must perform. It is a spell directed not at the gods, but at the most important witness in this entire proceeding, your own heart. You look down at your papier scroll, your fingers tracing the elegant, bird-like shapes of the hieroglyphs for spell 30b. This is one of the most important and personal spells in the entire Book of the Dead. It is often found inscribed not just on scrolls, but on the back of a beautiful green stone scarab beetle, an amulet that is placed directly over the heart of the mummy during the wrapping ritual. You, of course, have no such amulet. You have only the words, and you pray they are enough. The spell is a direct address, an appeal, a desperate plea to your own conscience. You begin to recite it, your voice a low, intense whisper. O my heart of my mother! O my heart of my mother! O my heart of my different forms! Do not stand up against me as a witness. Do not oppose me in the tribunal. Do not be hostile to me in the presence of the keeper of the balance. It is a stunningly vulnerable moment. After all this grand cosmic drama, after facing gods and monsters, the final potential betrayer is yourself. Your heart, your ib, which the Egyptians believed was the seat of memory, intelligence, and conscience, couldn't do everything. It has recorded every thought, every feeling, every action of your life. The spell continues, a carefully crafted piece of magical negotiation. You are my call, which is in my body. The Creator God K, HNUM, who makes my limbs sound. May you go forth to the beautiful place prepared for us there. This is a profoundly complex piece of theology. You are reminding your heart that you are connected, that your fates are intertwined. You are appealing to its sense of self-preservation. You are, in a very real sense, trying to silence the one witness who knows the absolute truth. This spell has been a source of immense debate among scholars. Is it an admission of guilt? A magical attempt to rig the trial by coercing the key witness into silence? Some have argued that it is exactly that, a sign that the Egyptians knew they were sinners and created a magical loophole to get them through the judgment. But others see it differently. They argue that the spell is not about hiding guilt, but about preventing the hard truth. Life is a complex thing. A single, bad memory, a moment of anger or fear, could be magnified in this divine courtroom and unfairly condemn an otherwise good soul. The spell, in this interpretation, is a plea for the heart to present a balanced and fair account, to not let a single, dark moment outweigh a lifetime of trying. It's a magical request for context, for understanding, for grace. As you finish the final words of the spell, you feel a gentle warmth in your chest. A calm, steady reassurance. Your heart, your faithful companion through your entire, difficult life, will not betray you. It will be your advocate, not your accuser. You feel a profound sense of peace settle over you. The terror of the judgment begins to recede, replaced by a quiet acceptance. You have done everything you can. You have followed the path, spoken the words, and made your peace with your own conscience. The rest is in the hands of the gods. And in the unwavering, incorporate mechanics of the great golden scales. Now you are ready. You look up from your scroll and meet the calm, dark eyes of Anubis. He gives a slow, almost imperceptible nod. He gently takes your hand, his touch cool and dry like the desert night. The time for words is over. The time for weighing has come. He begins to lead you forward, out of the place of confession and into the center of the great hall, towards the silent, waiting scales that hold the measure of your entire world. The walk to the scales is the longest of your existence. It is a journey of only a few dozen paces, but it feels as though you are crossing a vast desert. The 42 assessors watch you in absolute silence, their gazes like physical weights upon your soul. The only sound is the faint, imaginary whisper of your linen garment as you move. Thoth, the divine scribe, stands ready, his ibis head cocked, his expression unreadable and ancient. In the shadows, Ammit the devourer shifts her colossal weight. You hear the soft, wet sound of her oars opening and closing, a sound of patient anticipation. She is not growling or snarling. She is simply waiting. She is a necessary part of the cosmic machinery, the embodiment of the universe's need to correct its own errors. If your heart is heavy, it is an error, an imbalance in the fabric of Mayat. Ammit is the correction. As you draw closer, the sheer scale of the balance becomes apparent. It is taller than 3 men, crafted from a single piece of what looks like solidified sunlight. The crossbeam is perfectly level, the 2 great, circular pans hanging from it by golden chains, hovering just above the polished floor. They are so still, so perfectly poised, that they seem to exist outside of time, waiting for this single, sacred purpose. Anubis leads you to a designated spot, a small circle inscribed on the floor just before the scales. He releases your hand and moves to the side of the balance with a solemn, practiced grace. He is the keeper of the balance, the master of this ceremony. His movements are precise, economical, and filled with a profound sense of ritual. Now a new figure enters the scene. A goddess, tall and slender, her skin the color of the clear desert sky. She wears a simple white gown and on her head, a single, tall, white ostrich feather. This is Mayat, the goddess of truth, justice, cosmic order, and balance. She is the daughter of Ra, and her very existence is the principle upon which the entire universe is structured. The feather on her head is the physical manifestation of that principle, a perfect standard against which all things can be measured. She does not speak. She simply moves to one side of the scales, plucks the feather from her headdress, and with a gesture of infinite gentleness places it in one of the golden pans. The pan dips just for a fraction of a second under the feather's impossible weight, and then returns to a perfect level. The standard has been set. Now, it is your turn. This is the moment that is depicted in countless tomb paintings and papyrus scrolls, the single most iconic image of your entire civilization's beliefs about the afterlife. But to witness it, to be the subject of it, is an experience for which no painting could ever prepare you. Anubis turns to you. He gestures towards your chest with an open palm. The moment requires a voluntary offering. You must give your heart to him. This is a profound act of trust. You must surrender the very core of your being, the vessel of your consciousness and memory, to the Jackal God. You close your spiritual eyes for a moment, and you focus inward. You feel your heart, your rib, pulsing with a slow, steady rhythm. It is not an organ of flesh and blood anymore, but a concentration of light and memory, a warm, living jewel within your ethereal form. With a gentle act of will, you release it. You feel it detach from its place within you, and you hold it out in your cupped hands. It glows with a soft, reddish light, and within its depths, you can see the swirling, indistinct shapes of your entire life. The noise of the tavern, the taste of cheap wine, the kindness of a stranger, the sting of a cruel word, the warmth of the sun on your face. It is all there, everything you ever were, held in the palm of your hand. A newbie takes it from you. His touch is impossibly gentle, his long, slender fingers closing around the glowing jewel of your soul with the care of a priest handling a sacred relic. He turns back to the scales. For a moment, he holds the heart aloft, a silent offering to the gods of the whole. Then, with the same summum precision as Mayet, he places your heart in the second golden pan, the one opposite the feather. Now there is nothing left to do. You have spoken your piece. You have offered your evidence. The judgment is no longer in your hands, or even in the hands of the gods. It is now a matter of pure cosmic physics, a simple, terrible, and beautiful equation of truth. The moment your heart settles into the golden pan, the universe seems to hold its breath. A deep, resonant hum fills the hall, the sound of cosmic law being enacted. The great crossbeam of the scale shudders just once, a tremor that you feel in the very fabric of your soul. And then it begins to move. The pan holding your heart dips, slowly, terrifying me. It sinks an inch, then two. Your spiritual breath catches in your throat. You see a mare mighty in the shadows lean forward, a flicker of anticipation in her monstrous eyes. The weight of your life, the compromises, the small bitternesses, the necessary cruelties of survival, are they now, literally, dragging you down into oblivion? The memory of the stolen bread, the harsh word to another girl, the moments of despair when you cursed your own existence. Each one feels like a lead weight, a heavy stone added to the scale. But then the movement stops. The pan holding the feather of Mayet begins to descend, just as gracefully. It is a silent, cosmic dancer to opposing forces. The weight of your deeds versus the pure, unassailable lightness of truth. You remember a moment of kindness, a time you shared your meager meal with a beggar who had even less than you. You remember comforting Merit when she wept over a cruel sailor. You remember the simple, uncomplicated joy of watching the sun rise over the Nile, a moment of pure, unselfish wonder. Are these moments now adding their own impossible lightness to the scales? The beam sways, back and forth, back and forth. Each movement is a lifetime. With every dip of your heart's pan, a memory of failure flashes before you. With every dip of the feather's pan, a memory of grace. It is a perfect, agonizing visualization of your life's inner conflict. The movement begins to slow. The oscillations become smaller, less pronounced. The great beam is seeking its equilibrium, its point of final, eternal rest. This is the part of the ceremony that has always puzzled outsiders. The part that seems almost too simple, too mechanical to be divine. But for your people, this is the very definition of divinity. Justice is not a matter of a god's mood or opinion. It is a fundamental law of the universe, as real and as impartial as the rising of the sun. The scales are not a tool the gods use, they are a manifestation of a truth that even the gods must obey. There is a great debate among those who will study your culture centuries from now. What did it mean for the heart to be lighter than a feather? The common image is of the heart span rising high, showing it to be virtuous. But many of the ancient texts and many of the depictions show something else, something more profound. They show the scales coming to a perfect, unwavering balance. This is the true goal. Not to be weightless, not to be without substance, but to be in perfect equilibrium with truth. To have lived a life where the good and the bad, the joy and the sorrow, The moments of weakness and the moments of strength all resolve into a state of balance with the cosmic order. It is a much more difficult and much more beautiful standard to achieve. It suggests that the gods are not looking for perfection but for harmony. The great beam gives one last, almost imperceptible shudder. And then it is still, perfectly, absolutely, impossibly level. Your heart, with all of its messy, complicated, beautiful history, weighs exactly the same as a single, pure, white feather. A collective, silent exhalation seems to pass through the hall of two truths. The 42 assessors, who had been leaning forward in silent judgment, now relax back into their thrones. In the shadows, MMIT the Devour gives a low, soft groan, not of anger, but of disappointment. She turns and slinks back into the deeper darkness. There will be no meal for her today. The cosmic balance has been preserved. Thoth, the divine scribe, dips his reed pen into his palette. On the scroll of your life, he makes a single, final mark. A hieroglyph of a scribe's tools, the symbol for true or justified. He looks up, and for the first time, his ancient ibis eyes seem to hold a flicker of warmth, a quiet, scholarly satisfaction. You have passed the test. Your name is now not just your name. It is Maak true of voice, justified, vindicated. It is a title of honor that you will carry with you for all eternity. The weight of your past has been lifted, not by being erased, but by being balanced. You are whole. You are worthy. The tension in the great hall dissolves like mist in the morning sun. The formidable, terrifying faces of the 42 assessors seem to soften, their purpose fulfilled. They are no longer judges, but silent witnesses to your vindication. A profound sense of relief, so deep and so complete it is almost overwhelming, washes over you. It is the feeling of a burden carried for a lifetime finally being set down. Anubis moves from his position by the scales. He gently lifts your heart from the golden pennant with a gesture of profound respect, places it back within your chest. You feel a surge of warmth and completeness as it settles into its familiar place, no longer a potential betrayer, but a justified and integral part of your eternal self. It beats with a new rhythm now, a slow, steady, and peaceful cadence in harmony with the cosmos. Then, for the first time in this long, silent trial, a god speaks. Her heart has been weighed, and it is found true. There is no wickedness in her. She did not diminish the offerings in the temples. She did not harm the reputation of any. She is one of the pure ones. The voice is deep and resonant, a sound like the slow grinding of mountains. It is the voice of Thoth, the scribe. He is not just reading a verdict, he is making a formal declaration, entering the judgment into the eternal record of the universe. He rolls up his papiers, the official account of your trial now complete, and he tucks it into his sash. His work is done. Now another figure steps forward to guide you. It is Horus, the falcon-headed god, the son of the king of the underworld. He is a figure of immense power and authority, his gaze as sharp and clear as the desert sky. But there is a kindness in his expression. He has been a protector on the solar bark, and now he is your advocate, your formal introducer to the next and final stage of your journey. He extends a hand to you, and you take it. His grip is firm and reassuring. He begins to lead you from the center of the hall, past the silent chaos, past the now benign judges, towards a great, curtained archway at the far end of the chamber, a place you had not even noticed before. Come, Horus says, his voice a comfort after the long silence. Your father awaits you. The use of the word father is deeply symbolic. In this moment, every justified soul becomes the child of the great god of the underworld. Your old identity, a tavern girl from Thebes, a woman of no family and no status, is gone. You have been reborn through this trial as a child of the divine, adopted into the family of the gods. Horus leads you through the archway, and you find yourself in a smaller, more intimate chamber. This is the throne room of Osiris. The room is filled with a soft, green light, the color of new papiers shoots after the Nile flood. The air is sweet with the scent of incense and water lilies. There, on a throne of polished black stone, sits the lord of the duet, Osiris himself. He is a majestic and serene figure, his body wrapped like a mummy in pure white linen, a symbol of his own death and resurrection. His skin is green, the color of life and new growth. On his head, he wears the tall, white eight-of crown, flanked by 2 ostrich feathers. In his hands, he holds the crook and the flail, the symbols of kingship and fertility. His expression is one of profound, ancient calm. He is the god who died and was brought back to life, and in his serene gaze, you see the promise of your own eternal life. Behind his throne stand his 2 divine sisters, Isis and Nephthys, their arms in a protective gesture around him. They were the ones who searched for his body, who mourned him, and who, through their powerful magic, brought him back from the dead. They are the ultimate symbols of loyalty, love, and the triumph of life over oblivion. Horus leads you before the throne and you kneel not in fear, but in a deep soul-felt reverence. This is the source of it all, the king from whom all blessings flow. Horus speaks to his father. O Nefer, he says, using one of Osiris's most beautiful titles, the eternally beautiful one. I have brought you this justified soul. Her heart was weighed in the balance, and it was found true. She has been judged worthy to enter your kingdom. Osiris looks down at you. His eyes are not the fiery eyes of a judge, but the calm, knowing eyes of a gardener who is welcoming a new plant into his garden. He gives a slow, gentle nod. The gesture is small, but it contains the weight of eternity. It is the final, royal assent, the stamp of approval from the King of Forever. The historical origins of Osiris are a subject of endless fascination. Was he an ancient king who was deified after his death? Or was he always a god, a personification of the dying and regenerating vegetation of the Nile? Scholars may never agree. But for your people, he was the ultimate proof that death was not the end. He was the first mummy, the first to conquer the darkness. And every soul who followed him, who passed the judgment, was repeating his journey, sharing in his victory. Welcome, Osiris says. His voice is not a sound you hear with your ears, but a feeling of profound peace that blossoms in your heart. Welcome to the field of reeds. Welcome home. With the welcoming words of Osiris still echoing in the green-lit stillness of your soul, you feel a final, gentle transition begin. The grand, stone architecture of the Hall of Two Truths and the throne room of Osiris dissolves around you. The cool, subterranean air of the duet warms, sweetened by the scent of blossoms and damp, fertile earth. The soft green light of the throne room brightens, transforming into the golden, benevolent glow of a perfect, cloudless afternoon. You are no longer kneeling. You are standing. And you are no longer in a hall of judgment, but in a vast open field. This is it, the place you glimpsed from across the dark lake in the 6th hour of the night. The field of reeds, AARU. It is more beautiful than you could have possibly imagined. The sky is a shade of turquoise so pure it makes your heart ache with joy. The sun, a perfect golden disk, hangs perpetually in the sky, radiating a warmth that is life-giving, not scorching. A gentle, constant breeze rustles through the fields, carrying the sweet scent of lotus and the faint, musical sound of running water. Under your feet is not dust or stone, but rich black fertile soil, the sacred Kemet from which your entire land took its name. You look down at your feet, your spirit feet, and you see that they are clean, no longer stained with the grime of the city. You are wearing a gown of the finest, whitest linen, so light it feels like wearing a piece of the morning mist. Before you, the fields stretch out to the horizon. The barley grows impossibly tall, taller than a man, its golden heads heavy with grain. This is the divine grain of the gods, and from it is made the bread and beer of eternity. There is no blight here, no pests, no drought. It is a vision of perfect, effortless abundance. Winding through the fields are canals and streams of the clearest, coolest water. They are tributaries of a great, celestial river, the eternal Nile. Along their banks grow lush groves of date palms and sycamore fig trees, their branches heavy with ripe fruit. Lotus heavy with ripe fruit. Lotus flowers, both blue and white, float on the surface of the water, their petals open to the perfect sun. This is not a place of idle, empty leisure. It is a place of pleasant, meaningful activity. In the distance you see other souls, the AKHS, the blessed dead. They are working in the fields, but their work is not toil. They plough the rich earth with teams of white oxen whose horns are gilded with gold. They harvest the barley with sickles of polished silver, their movements graceful and unhurried. Their laughter carries on the gentle breeze. This is the Egyptian ideal of paradise. It is not a city of gold or a celestial palace. It is home. It is the Nile Valley, but perfected. It is a life of simple, raw bliss, freed from all pain, hunger, and sorrow. It is an eternity of good harvest. You see a group of people sitting in the shade of a large sycamore tree, playing a game of senet. Their game board is inlaid with ivory and ebony, and they move their pieces with a quiet, friendly concentration. The game of senet, so popular in your earthly life, was more than just a pastime. It was a symbol of the journey through the underworld itself, each square representing a stage of the journey, with the final square signifying triumphant arrival in the field of reeds. To play senet here is a celebration of that successful journey. And then you see her, the woman you glimpsed from the solar bark, the woman who looks like your mother. She is sitting under a tree, weaving a basket from the bright green reeds that grow by the water. She looks up, as if sensing your presence. And she smiles, a smile of pure, uncomplicated recognition and love. This is perhaps the greatest promise of the Field of Reeds reunion, the chance to be with loved ones who passed through the gates before you. Your family in the earthly sense was small and broken, but here you are part of the great, eternal family of the justified. You begin to walk, your feet making no sound on the soft earth. You are drawn towards that welcoming smile. As you walk, you feel a profound sense of lightness. The weariness of your earthly life, the deep, soul-aching tiredness you felt in the tavern, is completely gone. It has been washed away, burned away, judged away. This is the ultimate goal of the entire complex, expensive, and terrifying process of death and burial your people practiced. It was all for this. All the rituals of mummification, the building of the tomb, the writing of the tomb, the writing of the spells, the perilous journey through the duet, they were all just steps on the long path leading back to this perfect, sun-drenched field and branched field. A place where you are safe, where you are home, and where a new, beautiful, and eternal day is just beginning. And then another, walking into the warm, golden light of your forever. The last amen of the unified service in the great cathedral of Hagia Sophia has faded, its echo absorbed by the ancient gold mosaics and the silent, fearful hearts of the congregation. You have returned to the walls, to your post, to the cold stone that has been your world for 53 days. The pre-dawn air is damp and chilling, carrying the scent of dust, damp earth, and something metallic and tense. A city of 1,000,000 souls is holding its breath. Then a new sound begins. It is not the familiar, earth-shaking roar of the great cannons, which have fallen silent for the first time in weeks. This is a human sound. A low, growing rumble from the Ottoman camp, a sound that is less a battle cry and more a deep, guttural prayer. And then as the first pale grey light begins to silhouette the Ottoman siege towers against the eastern sky, the rumble erupts into a roar. The sound washes over the city, a human tsunami of voices, and the final assault begins. From your position on the outer wall near the street, Romanus Gate, the scene is one of disciplined, terrifying chaos. Tens of thousands of men, the first wave of irregular troops, the Bushi Bozo UKS, are thrown against the defenses. They are a wild, frenzied mob, promised the city's plunder if they can breach the walls, and a swift death if they retreat. They come on in a screaming tide, carrying scaling ladders, hooks, and crude explosive. But the defense holds. Under the calm, professional command of the man standing near you, the defense is a well-oiled machine of desperation. He is Giovanni Giustiniani Longo, the Genos captain, the expert in siege warfare. He is the rock upon which the entire defense is built. His voice, speaking a mix of Italian and Greek, cuts through the din, directing archers, repositioning crossbowmen, calling for more Greek fire. He seems to be everywhere at once, a whirlwind of competence in a storm of panic. For 2 hours the first wave crashes against the walls and breaks. The moat is filled with their bodies, a terrible, necessary bridge for the attackers who will come next. There is a brief, eerie lull, and then a new sound starts, a sound that is perhaps more terrifying than the roar of the cannons or the screams of men. It is music. The Janissary military band, the MEH Heron, begins to play. Huge kettle drums the size of small carts pound out to relentless, hypnotic rhythm. Oboes, called earners, wail a high, piercing alien melody. Cymbals crash and trumpets blare. It is a cacophony of organized, intimidating power, and it is one of the Ottomans' most potent psychological weapons. It's a sound that many Christian defenders had never heard before, the heartbeat of a strange new world coming to conquer theirs. This is a peculiar detail often lost in the grand narrative, that the final fall of the Roman Empire happened to a soundtrack. As the music swells, the second wave attacks. These are the regular Anatolian troops, disciplined and well-equipped. They advance with a terrifying steadiness, their armor glinting in the growing light. The fighting on the walls becomes a desperate, hand-to-hand struggle. You are no longer fighting a mob, you are fighting an orb. You are fighting an army. But still, Justinian I holds the line. He is a master of his craft. He anticipates every move, plugs every gap. Where the wall crumbles, he directs men to build a new barricade of barrels and earth. Where the attackers gain a foothold, he leads the counterattack himself, his great sword a blur of deadly efficiency. The Emperor Constantine I fights nearby, a king who has become a common soldier, his presence an inspiration to all. For a moment, it seems possible. It seems the city might just survive another day. And then it happens. Amidst the chaos of the fight, a small cannon, or perhaps a large ARQ bus, fires from the Ottoman lines. A small, crude piece of iron or a lead ball, no bigger than a fist, whistles through the air. It is not aimed at anyone in particular. It is a random, stray piece of death in a sky filled with it. But it finds its mark. You hear a sharp, wet crack and a gasp of pure animal pain. Justinian I tumbles back from the parapet. He looks down at his chest plate, at the dent into the small hole punched through the steel. A dark, crimson stain begins to spread across the front of his tunic. He has been wounded, badly. He leans against the wall, his face suddenly pale, his breath coming in ragged gasps. And he makes a decision that will be argued over in quiet libraries and heated academic conferences for 500 years. He asks his men to take him away, to carry him from the walls, back to his ship in the harbor where his own surgeon can tend to the wound. This is the wound that changed the world, and the controversy that surrounds it is immense. Historians still debate the severity of the injury. Was it truly mortal, a devastating blow that no man could have endured, or was a commander of his stature should have ignored, choosing to stay at his post, to die there if necessary, for the sake of the city? Did his nerve break at the final, crucial moment? We will never know for sure. Some sources say the projectile passed clean through him. Others say it was a minor wound to his leg or arm. His actions suggest a man who believed he was dying. The pleas of his emperor suggest a wound that could, perhaps, have been borne. Constantine rushes to his side, begging him to stay. The city's fate, and your own glory, depends on you, the emperor pleads. But Justinian I, in agony and perhaps in fear, refuses. His bodyguards pick him up and carry him away from the chaos, away from the fight, through a small gate in the inner wall. The effect on the remaining defenders is immediate and catastrophic. Hope, it turns out, can be a single person, and that person is leaving. A murmur of despair ripples down the line of soldiers. The Genos, seeing their commander fall, lose their fighting spirit. A gap, not just in the line, but in the collective will of the defense, has been opened, and the Janissaries, the Sultan's elite, are just beginning their final, decisive attack. The wound on Justinian's body has become a mortal wound on the soul of the city itself. The departure of Justinian I is like a stone being pulled from a crumbling wall. The entire structure of the defense begins to shudder to fail. The Emperor, Constantine, his face a mask of desperation, tries to rally the men, his voice raw from shouting. But it's no use. The psychological blow is too severe. The professional, the expert, the man who knew how to do the impossible is gone, and in his place, a vacuum of despair has opened. And now, the Janissaries come. They are the third and final wave, the elite of the Ottoman army. They are not a frenzied mob or a steady line of regulars. They are a silent, disciplined, irresistible force. Dressed in their distinctive white hats and blue uniforms, they advance not with a wild scream, but with a terrifying, rhythmic silence, the only sound the pounding of the MEH'd air and drums and the tramp of their own feet. They are a river of fresh, determined soldiers being poured against a line of exhausted, disheartened men. They attack the weakest point of the wall, the area around the street, Romanesque gate that has been pounded into rubble by the cannons and where Justinian I had been commanding. The fighting here reaches a new level of intensity. It is a meat grinder, a pure, brutal contest of will and endurance. But the defenders are spent. They have been fighting for hours, for weeks, for their very lives. The Janissaries are fresh, and they can see the prize, the glorious city, just a few feet away. But even as this climactic final battle rages on the main section of the walls, something else is happening. Something small, something almost insignificant, something that will become one of the most famous and debated details of the entire siege. Further north along the land walls, in a quieter sector, is a small, unassuming gate. It is a postern, a sally port, really just a small door in the wall, used for sending out small patrols or for citizens to access their fields in times of peace. Its name is the Kerkerporta. And on this morning of all mornings it is unlocked. How, why? This is a question that has haunted the memory of this day for centuries. Was it a mistake? Did someone, in the chaos of the final assault, simply forget to lock it? Was it an act of treachery, a secret deal made with the Ottomans by some unknown traitor? Or, as some historians now argue, was it something else entirely? Perhaps it had been opened by the defenders themselves for a planned counterattack, a sally that was never launched because of the chaos elsewhere. The unlocked gate is such a perfect, tragic symbol that it feels almost like a story, a legend made up after the fact to explain the inexplicable. But the evidence suggests it was real. An accident, a tiny, fatal oversight in a moment of supreme crisis. A small group of Janissaries, perhaps 50 men who had become separated from the main assault, are probing the walls in this quieter section. They are looking for any weakness, any crack in the ancient stone. And they find it. One of them pushes against the small wooden door of the Kerkerporta, and to his astonishment, its wings open. For a moment they must have paused, suspecting a trap. It seemed too easy, too good to be true. But there is no ambush. The section of the wall just inside the gate is, for the moment, undefended. The few soldiers who should have been there have likely been pulled away to reinforce the desperate fight at the street. Romanesque gate. The Janissaries pour through. They are not a huge force, but they are inside the impregnable city. They quickly overpower the few guards they find and scramble up the nearest set of stairs to the top of the wall. And there, one of them does something that seals the city's fate more surely than any cannonball. He takes down the Byzantine standard, the double-headed eagle of the Palaiologos dynasty, and in its place, he raises the blood-red banner of the Ottoman Sultan. The effect is instantaneous and devastating. The defenders fighting desperately on the outer wall look up and see the enemy flag flying from their own ramparts behind them. The cry goes up, the city is taken. Panic, a force more powerful than any army, sweeps through the remaining defenders. The line, which had bent but not broken, now shatters completely. Men throw down their weapons and run, trying to get back to their homes, to their families. The disciplined defense dissolves into a terrified mob. The organized resistance is over. It wasn't the giant cannons or the overwhelming numbers that ultimately doomed the city. It wasn't even the loss of the great commander Justinian I. In the end, it was a small, forgotten gate, a moment of human error, that provided the final, fatal entry point. It is a terrible, ironic lesson in the history of warfare. You can build the greatest walls in the world, you can fight with the courage of legends, but your fate can be decided by a single, unlocked door. The sight of the Ottoman flag flying from a tower on the inner wall is the signal. A wave of collective despair crashes over the city's defenders, a psychological collapse that no amount of courage can withstand. The human wall breaks. The Janissaries, sensing the shift, surge forward, pouring through the breaches in the outer wall, their victory cries now replacing the disciplined silence of their advance. For the Emperor, Constantinople, this is the final terrible moment. He is standing near the breach, a figure of tragic nobility amid the chaos. He has heard the cries of his men as they break and run. He knows with the cold certainty of a king who has lost his kingdom that it is over. The line has been broken. The city is lost. The Roman Empire, which has endured for over 2,000 years, an unbroken thread stretching back to the mythical founding of Rome itself, is about to die here, in this dusty, bloody breach. What does a king do in such a moment? He could flee. A small boat might be waiting for him in the harbor, a chance to escape to one of the few remaining Greek islands, to live out his days as a king in exile. He could surrender. Perhaps the Sultan, in a show of magnanimity, would spare his life, keeping him as a prized and symbolic captive. These are the rational choices, the choices a politician might make. But Constantine is not just a politician. He is the heir to the Caesars. He is the protector of the city, the shepherd of his people, and he makes a choice that will elevate him from a historical figure to a legend. He turns to the small group of loyal soldiers still with him, a handful of Greeks and Latins who have not fled. Among them is his cousin, Theophilus Palaiologos, and a brave Spanish knight, Don Francisco of Toledo. There are no grand speeches. There is no time. Just a few simple, final words. According to some accounts, he says, "The city is fallen, and I am still alive." Then he says to his loyal men, "Whoever wishes to escape, let him save himself if he can, and whoever is ready to face death, let him follow me." Then he does something profoundly symbolic. With his own hands, he tears off the golden imperial eagles and the other insignia from his royal regalia. He removes his distinctive purple boots. He sheds the identity of the emperor. He does not want to be captured as a prize. With a final, desperate cry of "For Christ and the city," he draws his sword, and with his few remaining companions he charges. Not away from the battle, but directly into the thickest part of it. He plunges into the oncoming tide of Janissaries, a small, insignificant island of hopeless courage against an ocean of victorious invaders, and then he disappears. That is the last anyone ever saw of him alive. He is simply swallowed by the chaos of the final fight. He vanishes into the legend that he himself has just created. The exact fate of his body is one of history's most enduring and poignant mysteries. It has been a subject of debate for historians and a source of folklore for centuries. After the battle, Sultan Mehmed, who had a deep and genuine respect for his defeated foe, ordered a search for the emperor's body. He wanted to give him a proper Christian burial. According to one popular story, the body was eventually found, buried under a pile of the slain. It was identified not by any royal insignia, but by the small, embroidered eagles on what was left of his boots or his clothing. A detail that contradicts the story of him removing his regalia, but which makes for a more dramatic tale. Mehmed, it is said, gave him a state funeral. But another, more persistent tradition, one that became a cornerstone of Greek national identity and hope for centuries, claims that his body was never found at all. In this version, just as he was about to be struck down, an angel swooped down from heaven, turned him into marble, and hid him in a cave beneath the golden gate of the city. There the marble emperor sleeps, waiting for the day when he will reawaken, reconquer the city, and restore the lost empire. Powerful myth and hope in the face of absolute loss. As you stand on the crumbling walls, watching the last emperor of Rome charge to his anonymous death, you are witnessing the end of an era. The title of Caesar, of Augustus, which has echoed through the corridors of power for millennia, is being extinguished in a cloud of dust and a clash of steel. The man is gone, lost to history, but the legend of a king who chose to die with his people, as one of his people, is just being born. With the disappearance of the emperor into the chaos and the complete collapse of the wall's defense, the city's fate is sealed. The torrent of Ottoman soldiers, no longer just the elite janissaries but the entire army, floods through the breached gates and over the rubble-choked moats. The disciplined assault transforms into a chaotic, city-wide sack. For the next 3 days, according to the ancient laws of war, the city belongs to the victorious soldiers. You, a silent, weightless observer, drift away from the bloody chaos of the walls and flounce over the city's ancient, winding streets. Below you is a scene of profound human tragedy. The sounds of battle are replaced by the sounds of plunder, the splintering of doors, the shattering of pottery, the screams of the terrified and the triumphant shouts of the conquerors. Soldiers, drunk on victory, pour into the homes of the rich and the poor alike. They emerge with armfuls of silks, icons, silver plates, and any other portable wealth they can find. Churches and monasteries, thought to be filled with treasure, are special targets. Their ancient, bronze doors are battered down, their sacred chalices, unjeweled crosses taken as booty. But the greatest prize is not gold or silver. It is people. The city's inhabitants are rounded up, their hands tied, and they are herded like cattle into the public squares. The most valuable form of plunder. Husbands are separated from wives, children from parents. A family that had lived in the city for 1,000 years is dissolved in a single, brutal afternoon. It is the grim, economic reality of ancient warfare, a human harvest to reward the conquerors. You drift towards the harbor, the Golden Horn. The great chain that had protected it for so long is now useless. Ottoman ships are sailing in freely, their crews eager to join the plunder. You see Giovanni Giustini on his ship. He is there, lying in his cabin, dying from his wound. He will not survive the journey back to his home island of Chios. His decision to leave the walls has saved him from the final, chaotic battle, but it has not saved him from death, nor from the judgment of history. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, a new figure enters the city. He does not come as a plunderer. He comes as the conqueror. Sultan Mehmed II, now and forever to be known as Mehmed the Conqueror, makes his formal entry into the city he has dreamed of since he was a boy. He is 21 years old. He rides a magnificent white horse, surrounded by his personal guard of janissaries and his chief ministers, the viziers. He enters not through the breach in the walls, but through the main gate, the gate of street, Romanus, the site of the hardest fighting. As he passes through, he is said to have recited a line of Persian poetry. The spider weaves the curtains in the palace of the Caesars, the owl calls the watchers in the towers of Asia B. It is a moment of profound, poetic melancholy, a reflection on the transient nature of all earthly power, even in his moment of ultimate triumph. He rides slowly, his expression not of gleeful victory, but of a deep, almost solemn awe. He is not just a conqueror, he is a student of history. He knows exactly what this city is. He knows he is riding through the streets that Justinian and Theodosius once rode. He is in the heart of the legend. His procession makes its way through the captured city, a bubble of disciplined order in a sea of chaos. He has given his soldiers their 3 days of plunder, as was their right. But he has also given strict orders that the city's great buildings are not to be destroyed. He has not conquered this city to tear it down. He has conquered it to make it his own, the new capital of his own growing empire. His destination is the jewel of the city, the single greatest building in all of Christendom. He rides towards the great church, the Hagia Sophia, the cathedral of holy wisdom. As he approaches, he sees a janissary, in a fit of destructive fervor, hacking at the marble floor of the great church. Mehmed stops him at once. He is said to have struck the soldier himself, saying, "I have given you the slaves and the treasure. The buildings are mine." He dismounts from his horse at the main entrance of the great cathedral. He stoops down, scoops up a handful of earth from the ground, and in a gesture of humility before God, he sprinkles it over his turban. Then the young sultan, the new master of the city, pushes open the great bronze doors and steps out of the bright sunlight and into the vast, sacred, and now terrified heart of Constantinople. You follow the young Sultan as he steps across the threshold of the Hagia Sophia. The contrast between the outside world and this vast, interior space is immediate and profound. Outside is the bright, harsh sunlight of a city being torn apart. Inside is a cool, cavernous twilight, a space so enormous it seems to contain its own sky. Dust motes, disturbed by the thousands of terrified citizens who have taken refuge here, dance in the shafts of light that pierce the gloom from the high windows of the great dome. The air is thick with the scent of 1,000 years of incense, beeswax, and fear. The lower level of the cathedral is a panicked, weeping sea of humanity. Men, women, and children from all walks of life have flocked to this, their most sacred sanctuary, believing in an old prophecy that when the enemy reached the column of Constantine just outside, an angel would descend from heaven with a flaming sword and drive them away, saving the city at the final moment. They are still waiting for their angel. As the Sultan and his guards enter, a wave of terrified silence spreads from the great bronze doors through the entire crowd. The weeping stops. The prayers die on their lips. All eyes are fixed on this young man who now holds all of their lives in his hands. Mehmed stands for a long moment in the entrance, his eyes adjusting to the dim light, his gaze sweeping upwards. Above him, the legendary dome of the Hagia Sophia seems to float, unsupported, a golden hemisphere suspended between heaven and earth. It is an architectural marvel, a feat of engineering that has mystified builders for a millennium. On its vast, curved surface is a giant mosaic of Christ Pantocrator, the ruler of all, his hand raised in blessing, his eyes looking down with a serene, sorrowful expression upon the scene below. Surrounding him are golden mosaics of angels, saints, and emperors, their glass and stone tesserae glittering faintly in the dim light. The Sultan is visibly moved. He is a conqueror, but he is also a man of culture and a deep, if rival, faith. He recognizes the transcendent beauty and power of this space. It is not just a building, it is a statement, a 1,000-year-old declaration of faith, power, and artistic genius. He walks slowly towards the center of the church, his boots echoing on the ancient marble floor. His guards begin to clear a path through the crowd who shrink back in terror. An elderly priest, still in his vestments, is standing defiantly on the Amiambo, the raised pulpit in the center of the church, still trying to lead his flock in prayer. Mehmed gestures for him to be silent. The Sultan walks all the way to the great apse at the eastern end of the church, the most sacred spot. Here, behind the altar, is another magnificent mosaic, this one of the Virgin Mary, the Theotokos, the Mother of God, holding the infant Christ. He gazes at it for a long time, his expression unreadable. This moment is a pivotal point in world history, and it has been the subject of much debate and interpretation. What was Mehmed thinking? Was he seeing a rival faith to be extinguished? Or was he seeing a shared tradition? Islam, after all, reveres Jesus as a great prophet and Mary was his holy mother. Some sources claim he was filled with a sense of respect for Allah. Others, written by his enemies, claim he sneered at the Christian idols. The truth is likely somewhere in between. He was a devout Muslim who saw his conquest as a fulfillment of prophecy, but he was also a Renaissance prince who could appreciate the profound artistry of what he was seeing. After a long silent contemplation, he makes his decision. He turns and summons one of his own priests, an imam who has accompanied him. The imam walks up to the pulpit, the same one where the Christian priest had been standing moments before. He turns to face the terrified crowd, clears his throat, and in a loud, clear voice he chants the adhan, the Islamic call to prayer. The sound, so alien to this space, echoes up into the great dome. The Arabic words of a new faith fill the air that had only ever known the Greek chants of the old. It is in this moment, with this sound, that the Hagia Sophia, the great cathedral of Eastern Christendom for over 900 years, ceases to be a church. The Sultan then climbs the pulpit himself. He turns, not to the Christian crowd, but to his own soldiers and ministers who have followed him in, and he leads them in the first Muslim prayer in this new, grandest mosque of their empire. He and his followers kneel on the ancient marble floors, facing not towards the Christian apse in the east, but turning slightly to face southeast, towards Mecca. The great mosaics of Christ and the saints look down upon the scene, silent, golden witnesses to this profound and irreversible transformation. The Wisdom of God Cathedral, the Hagia Sophia, has begun its new life. The first prayer within the newly claimed mosque marks the symbolic end of the old world and the beginning of a new one. For the terrified citizens huddled within the great building, it is a moment of profound uncertainty. But Sultan Mehmed is not a barbarian conqueror bent on mindless destruction or conversion by the sword. He is a pragmatic and visionary empire builder. After the prayer, he addresses the assembled Constantinopolitans. He speaks not with anger, but with a calm authority. Through a translator, he assures them that their lives will be spared. Those who wish can ransom themselves out of slavery. Those who choose to remain in the city will be allowed to practice their Christian faith, as long as they accept his rule and pay the tax required of non-Muslim subjects. He declares that the Greek Orthodox Patriarchate, the head of their church, will be allowed to continue, a decision of remarkable political shrewdness that ensures a measure of stability and continuity for his new Christian subject. It is the beginning of the Ottoman millet system, a way of governing a vast, multi-ethnic, multi-religious empire by allowing different religious communities to have a degree of autonomy over their own affairs. It is a system that will define the Ottoman Empire for the next 500 years. In the days that follow, the city begins a slow, painful transformation. The chaos of the sack subsides. The Sultan's soldiers are brought back under control. The process of rebuilding and repopulating the half-empty city begins. Mehmed offers land and tax incentives to people from all over his empire. Turks, Greeks, Armenians, Jews, to come and settle in his new capital. He wants to create a vibrant, cosmopolitan center of the world, and he succeeds. The city, which will soon become known to the world as Istanbul, enters a new golden age under Ottoman rule. But the fall of Constantinople sends a shockwave across the rest of the world. In the capitals of Europe, in Rome, Venice, Genoa, the news is met with disbelief then horror. For 1,000 years, Constantinople had been the great eastern shield of Christendom, the God-guarded city that had held back wave after wave of invaders from the east. The psychological impact is immense. It feels like the end of the world. Preachers call for a new crusade to retake the holy city, but the fractious, divided kingdoms of Europe are unable to unite. The age of the Great Crusades is over. A new power has arrived, and it is here to stay. The fall of the city has other, more practical consequences that will reshape the world in ways no one could have predicted. For centuries, the city had been the great gateway for the overland trade routes to the east, the famous Silk Road. Now that gateway is controlled by a powerful and often hostile empire. The prices of spices, silks, and other eastern luxuries skyrocket. This economic reality forces the maritime nations of Western Europe, particularly Portugal and Spain, to look for alternative routes. If the land route is blocked, they must find a sea route. This simple, economic imperative will launch the great age of discovery. Christopher Columbus, seeking a westward route to the Indies, Vasco da Gama, sailing around Africa. Their journeys are a direct, if unintended, consequence of Mehmed's victory. The fall of Constantinople, in a very real sense, leads to the European discovery of the Americas and the creation of a new, globalized world. There is another more subtle consequence. In the years leading up to the siege, and in the chaos of its fall, many of the city's scholars and intellectuals fled to the west, primarily to Italy. They brought with them their precious manuscripts, the works of Plato, of Aristotle, of the great Greek historians and playwrights, texts that had been largely lost to or forgotten in Western Europe. This sudden influx of classical knowledge is a key catalyst for the Italian Renaissance. The rediscovery of these ancient texts helps to spark a revolution in art, science, and philosophy. The fall of the last remnant of the old Roman world helps to give birth to the modern one. This final chapter is one that historians are still debating. How much credit should the fall of Constantinople be given for these world-changing events? Were the Renaissance and the Age of Discovery already underway, and the city's fall merely an accelerator, or was it the primary cause, the spark that lit the fuse? The answer, as always, is complex. But what is undeniable is that the events of that spring day in 1453 The day a 21-year-old sultan fulfilled a centuries-old dream marked a profound and permanent turning point in the story of the world. The Middle Ages died on the walls of Constantinople, and a new, more complex, and more connected world was waiting to be born from its ashes. And so the story of the great city and its dramatic, world-changing fall comes to a quiet close. The echoes of the great cannons fade into the long corridors of time, replaced by the murmur of new mosques and the bustling trade of a new empire. The story is a reminder that nothing, not even the most formidable walls, is permanent, that history is a river, constantly reshaping the landscape of the world. The young sultan who dreamed of a city grew old and died, his empire stretching to the edges of the known world. The last emperor, who became a simple soldier, lives on forever as a symbol of courage in the face of impossible odds. And the city itself, a place of so many names, Byzantium, Constantinople, Istanbul, continues its own long story. A bridge between continents, a meeting place of faiths, a beautiful, chaotic, and timeless jewel on the shores of the Bosphorus. Our journey through this moment in time is now complete. The dust has settled, the echoes have faded, and all that is left is the deep, peaceful quiet of the night. The end of the article. Our journey together tonight ends here in this quiet place. Should you need another tale to accompany you further into rest, my library of stories is always open for you. May your dreams be kind. Good night.